I am 18 years old now, and I live in a single-story house in Tacoma, in the state of Washington. The house isn't big. It was left to me by my maternal grandparents, and it still sounds strange to say it out loud. The house is mine. Even so, I don't always feel like I'm the one in charge inside it. That Sunday, I woke up early. The clock said 7 when I heard footsteps in the hallway. I got up slowly, put on an oversized sweatshirt, and went to the kitchen. She was already there, sitting at the table, stirring her coffee. "You took long enough," she said without looking at me. I didn't answer. I grabbed another mug, poured coffee, and stood by the sink. She was strangely put together. Hair tied back, light makeup. That wasn't common. It put me on edge. My head started firing short, contradictory thoughts. Maybe she's leaving today. Maybe she's planning something. "Sit," she insisted. I sat. She started talking out of nowhere, commenting on the weather, on how the grocery store had raised prices, on how the neighbor across the street was loud. I just listened. Then she smiled. That smile scared me the most. "I thought we could have lunch together," she said. "Something simple, like a normal family." Normal family. The word sounded strange. I went to the stove and started cutting vegetables. Behind me, she kept talking. Her voice overly cheerful, rehearsed. She said life changes. She said people mature. She said she was in a new phase. I felt that old knot in my chest. Part of me wanted to believe it. Another part wanted to run out the back door. She took a deep breath before really speaking. I noticed. "I have something important to tell you," she said. The smile came back, bigger now. Too bright for that old kitchen. "I'm pregnant." The world didn't stop, but I did. She kept talking. Fast. She talked about blessings, about fresh starts, about how she'd been trying for a while. She talked about her partner, about plans, about colors for a room that didn't even exist yet. I could only think one thing. Here, in this house. She placed her hands on the table. "We're going to need to reorganize some things," she said, in the most angelic tone she could manufacture. That's when I knew that lunch had never been about food. She didn't say it all at once. She built the request the way someone prepares the ground before driving in a stake. "I know this is a lot to process," she continued, pushing food around on her plate without really eating. "But you need to understand that now there's another life involved. Another life, as if I were an outdated detail." I nodded, more to buy time than out of agreement. My head was full. One thought ran over the other. Don't react. Listen. You always listen. She took a deep breath, that way she always did before something that would cost me dearly. "The house," she began, looking around as if she were evaluating a property to buy. "It wasn't made for 3 adults and a baby the way it is now. 3 adults. Me, her partner. The baby wasn't even born yet and was already taking up too much space. I thought about it a lot," she said, "and I came to the conclusion that the best thing would be for you to move to the basement for a while." I felt heat rise up my body. I squeezed the napkin between my fingers until it was completely crumpled. "The basement isn't a bedroom," I said. "There's no window, no decent ventilation." She shrugged. "I lived down there when I stayed with my parents. I didn't die because of it. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. I did neither. This is my house," I said slowly. "I'm not going to the basement." She frowned. The smile began to fade. "You're being selfish. Family makes sacrifices. Family. Sacrifice." Those 2 words always came together, as if they were inseparable. And, interestingly enough, the sacrifice was never hers. "I even thought of another option in case you didn't want to help by going to the basement," she continued, leaning back in her chair. "I talked to your biological father." My heart sped up. "You did what?" "He has a spare room," she said quickly. "You could stay there for a while, pay a symbolic rent. It would be good for you to reconnect. Reconnect. With someone I spent years trying to forget just so I could sleep." "You want me to leave my house?" I said. "To live with him and still pay rent?" She crossed her arms. "I'm trying to find adult solutions." I stood up from the table. My hands were shaking. "No, absolutely not," I said. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "You only have 2 options," she replied. "Either the basement or your father's house. I need this room. I already picked the colors for the baby." Colors. Room. Baby. As if my existence were insignificant. I felt anger mixed with an old pain, wondering why it had never been like that when I was born, why there was never planning, care, excitement. I didn't ask. Before I left, she tried one last blow. "You need to learn how to share," she said behind me. "You can't carry resentment forever." I opened the door and left without answering. I went down the porch steps with my heart racing, not knowing where to go. As I wandered aimlessly down the street, One thought kept repeating, insistent and cruel. She never changed. She just found a new way to push me out. I walked for almost an hour without noticing. The sky began to darken. I checked my phone. No messages, no calls. Of course not. She would never come after me. She always waited for me to come back. I stopped at a small park a few blocks from home. I sat on a bench watching children play near the swings. That's when the memories came, uninvited. Me too small to reach the kitchen sink, trying to climb onto an unstable chair to get something to eat. There were days when she simply didn't see me. I spoke, and she walked past me as if I were furniture. Other days she saw too much. Every mistake of mine felt personal. A broken glass, a forgotten notebook, a toy out of place. School was the opposite of all that. I remembered the long hallway, the classroom. No one yelled at me there. No one told me to disappear. I had a desk, a name on the roll call, a fixed place. I stayed after hours whenever I could. I helped teachers organize things no one needed, erased the board, straightened books, any excuse not to go home too early. Even so, there was something in me that never gave up on her. That was the worst part. Even after everything, I still felt that small, stubborn hope, a minimal gesture, always thinking that maybe, just maybe, something in her had changed. I also remembered that night. It must have been close to 9, maybe a little later. I was sitting on the floor of my bedroom, leaning against the bed, doing homework under the dim light of the lamp. I heard the front door slam harder than it should have. They started arguing almost immediately. Then I heard something break. The dry sound of shattering glass cut through the house. My heart raced. I stood up without thinking, opened my bedroom door, and stopped in the dark hallway. That's when it happened. He lunged toward her. She stepped back. An object flew. It wasn't meant for me, but I felt the impact on my face before I even understood what had happened. I brought my hand to my cheek and felt blood running through my fingers. "Go to your room," he yelled, finally seeing me. But I was already in shock. They kept arguing as if I wasn't there, as if I hadn't been hit. I went to the bathroom alone, and in the mirror I saw an ugly cut near my cheekbone. The next morning at school, I tried to hide it with my hair down. It didn't work. The English teacher called me after class. She spoke softly, carefully, asked what had happened. I lied. A poorly made story about tripping. She didn't believe me. When I got home, they were already there. My grandparents, Mr. Robert and Mrs. Helen. The car parked crookedly in front of the house. The door open. The air heavy. Mr. Robert saw my face and completely changed. The calm demeanor disappeared. For the first time, I saw an adult talk to my father without fear. The report from the school had reached them. "You lost the right to call this a home," he said. My mother was sitting on the couch, too quiet, eyes glazed, no attempt to explain. Mrs. Helen hugged me carefully, whispered that I would be okay. They argued. A lot. Words I had never heard anyone say to my parents. Threats of police, of social services, of real consequences. I stood there, feeling relief mixed with guilt. That night I packed a backpack, some clothes, my notebooks, a pair of sneakers, nothing else. I didn't look back when I walked out the door. In the car, Mr. Robert drove in silence. I didn't cry. Update 1. After that night, my life took a different path. I lived with my grandparents for years. Their house was almost 2 hours away in a small town that felt too quiet at first. Everything there had a schedule. Dinner at 6, lights off early, low voices. In the beginning, it made me anxious. I was used to chaos. They never asked too much. Mr. Robert asked if I needed a ride to school. Still, my mother never completely disappeared. Sparse phone calls, confusing messages, always oscillating between guilt and demands. I answered little. The years passed. When my maternal grandparents began to get sick, I was already a teenager. Hospital visits, whispered conversations in hallways. They aged too fast. When they passed away, just a few months apart, I felt a strange hollow. It was after the funeral that I got the news. The house. That house. The lawyer spoke carefully, said they had thought a lot, that they wanted to ensure my safety, my future. I nodded, unable to say anything. My mother was furious. She appeared out of nowhere, with that look of someone who already feels like they own something. She said there must be a mistake, that the house would always be hers, that I was too young to understand these things, that the fair thing would be to put everything in her name. I said no. It was a small word, but it changed everything. There were screams, veiled threats, performative tears. In the end, she realized she had no choice. She proposed a deal, staying in the house as a tenant, paying rent, something temporary according to her. I accepted after talking to the lawyer. At first, it seemed to work. She paid on time, kept to her space. I kept to mine. We spoke only what was necessary. I counted the months, telling myself it was just a transition. Then her partner arrived. At first, he showed up as occasional visits. A tall man, smile too easy, stories too long, always trying to be nice to me, as if that erased the fact that I didn't want him there. Soon, the visits turned into nights, then weeks. Before I realized it, he was living there. "It's just until we get organized," she said, as always. The rent was late, 1 month, then another. Small invasions began to pile up. My things moved. Passive comments about how I took up too much space. Suggestions about sharing better around the house. Every day was a test, and I felt that old sensation come back. The certainty that if I did nothing, I would be pushed out of my own life again. But this time, something was different. This time, the house was truly mine. Update 2. I spent weeks preparing without announcing anything. I started with the basics. I separated documents, revisited old message conversations. I wrote down dates in a simple notebook. The rent had been overdue for 4 months. It wasn't a slip. It was a pattern. On a Tuesday night, around 7 p.m., I asked my mother to talk. I waited for her partner to leave to buy beer. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where she had announced the pregnancy weeks earlier. "You need to move out," I said, without beating around the bush. "What did you say?" "I'm going to give you formal notice," I continued. 2 months to leave. After that, I'll change the locks. The silence that followed was thick. She stared at me as if she were looking at a stranger. Then came the laugh. "You wouldn't do that," she said. "You don't have the guts." "I do," I replied. My voice came out firmer than I expected. Her face changed quickly. The laughter disappeared. Her eyes turned red with anger. "And the baby?" she asked. "You're going to put a pregnant woman on the street?" There it was, the final card. I felt something twist inside me, but I didn't give in. I thought about everything that was never taken into account when I was a child. I thought about the basement. I thought about the absurd invitation to live with my biological father. "That's not my responsibility," I said. "I've already done more than I could." She tried to negotiate, said I could go to the basement just until the baby grows, said I could help financially, said family doesn't do this to each other. Every sentence was an attempt to push me back. When that didn't work, the threat came. "I can make your life hell," she said. "I can say things." I stood up from the table. "Then do it," I replied. "But you're leaving here no matter what." That night, lying in my bed, I heard doors slamming, whispers in the hallway. I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I was going too far, wondering if this made me a bad person. At the same time, part of me felt certain. I knew the explosion was coming. And for the first time, I didn't think about running. 2 days after the conversation in the kitchen, I woke up before dawn. I got up, made coffee, and sat at the table with my laptop open. I wrote it all at once. It wasn't a hysterical rant. It wasn't loud revenge. It was a dry, chronological account, without insults, just facts, situations, what happened when no one was watching. I talked about childhood, about neglect, about the violence of my biological father, about the house that was never safe, about the recent request for me to give up my own room, about the suggestion that I live with a father who was never a father, about the attempt to push me out again. I didn't use full names. I didn't dramatize. I didn't ask for opinions. When I finished, I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the publish button. One thought tried to pull me back. "You'll regret this. You're exaggerating." Another thought answered, calm and firm. No one protected me. I posted it. I closed the laptop. I took a shower, and when I came back, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Messages, notifications, missed calls, distant relatives, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some said they were sorry. Others said they never imagined it. Some asked for details. I didn't respond. The phone rang. It was her. "Have you lost your mind?" she screamed. "Delete that now. You're destroying my life." "I just told the truth before you go spreading your lies," I replied. "You've always been ungrateful," she said. "I sacrificed everything for you." I laughed. "Don't call me again," I said. "Never contact me again." I hung up. The calls kept coming. Messages from her partner. Long, confused voice notes mixing threats with attempts at deals, promises of lawsuits, of scandals, of revenge. I blocked them one by one. After that, I did something practical. I called a locksmith. I changed all the locks that same day. In the afternoon, a technician came to install simple but functional cameras. The house gained eyes. For the first time, I felt like it could defend itself too. When night fell, I sat alone in the living room, the lights on, the doors locked. My phone finally silent. I expected to feel crushing guilt. I expected to cry. I expected that old emptiness. What I felt was exhaustion. She moved out within the deadline, complaining until the very last second. Boxes dragged down the hallway. Doors slammed. Words trying to hurt me one last time. I didn't respond. I stayed in my room, sitting on the bed, breathing deeply, listening to it end. The following months were strangely quiet. At first, I woke up startled by any noise. My body still expected invasion, confrontation, demands. It took time to understand that no one was going to cross that line anymore. Changing locks, adjusting alarms, learning to close the house every night became a ritual, a simple, repeated gesture. I was protecting something that was finally mine. I started organizing the house little by little, not all at once. I threw away things that no longer made sense. I went back to studying with focus, enrolled in the local community college, morning classes, afternoons at the library. A simple, realistic plan. It still hurts. I won't lie. There are days when memory comes back without warning. There are days when I wonder if it could have been different. But those thoughts don't control me anymore. Today, when I lock the door of my house at night, I don't feel fear. I feel something better. I feel peace.